Hello again, YouTube. Hope y'all are doing well today. Thank you for watching another episode of Wired for Crappie. Today, we're going to be a little less wired and a little bit more geared towards this motor right here. So what we're going to do today, we're going to put some new spark plugs in the motor. We're going to put some new gear lube in the foot. Got to have our pump to do that. And we're going to just do a once over of the motor. We're going to take the prop off, check the shaft, grease it. So we're going to go through all that with you guys today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alright guys, welcome back. So we're going to start with the gear lube. Okay, we're going to start with this lower unit. We're going to start with working on it and getting it maintenanced. We'll get this prop off, get it checked for fishing line. You always need to take your prop off a couple times a season and check to make sure there's no fishing line or anything wrapped around that prop. And also to grease the splines on that shaft. So we're going to do that, but we're going to start first with draining this lower unit. Get all the gear lube out of it and putting fresh gear lube in there so everything stays nice and lubed. We're going to check it for water and make sure there's no issues in that lower unit. So things that you will need for this task. Obviously you will need a drain pan, okay? So you got to get you a good drain pan. You will need a gear lube pump. I lost mine somewhere along the way. We moved last year and I do not know where it went. So I bought a new one. All right, this is an Ozark Trail gear pump or gear lube pump from Walmart. Let's hope it works. Gear lube. So I use the Quicksilver Marine High Performance Gear Lube. All right, is what I use in my lower unit. This is a Johnson Fast Strike. It's a 96 model. It's a 150. This is what is recommended to run in that lower unit. So it is the blue gear lube from Quicksilver. It's the high performance. Okay, guys, that's SAE 90. That's what I run in my lower. 2 quarts of that. And you will need a couple large screwdrivers, guys. Large flat-headed screwdrivers to get this drain and that drain plug out, okay? So we're going to go ahead and take those out. We're going to take the bottom drain plug out first and then the top. So the bottom is actually your drain hole. The top is your vent hole, which vents the lower unit, allowing it to drain well. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. A pair of gloves always helps. Keeps your hands from getting real oily. And always, always, always the blue shop towels. Gotta have blue shop towels, right guys? All right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna start with this lower drain plug. Boy, that thing is on there. All right, we'll get that one off. Woo, she's sludgy. Come here. All right. And pop that top one. Let her start draining. Come off there. There we go. Boy, it was time for a gear lube change. I can tell you that right now. There is some discoloration in that. Not bad, but it was time for a change. And we're just going to let that sit there and drain, guys. As you can see, I do have the motor tilted a little bit up, so it allows that to drain. let that sit there and drain out. Alright guys, so while we let that drain, we are going to take this prop off and inspect the splines of the prop, the seals, to see and make sure that there's no fishing line, make sure that there's not anything that's damaged those seals and allowing water to get in. There is a little bit of discoloration. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but there is a little bit of discoloration in that fluid, so I'm a little bit concerned with whether we've got some water intrusion or not. We're going to check, make sure everything's copacetic around this prop, okay? And it has been a little while since I actually changed my gear lube. I actually probably slipped on that a little bit, so that could be what's going on with it too. So we got to take this carter pin off. There's a little carter pin right here on this prop. Got to bend it, get that carter pin off. Try not to break it if we can. Alright, carter pin's out. Take the little nut cover off. Now one thing you're going to need, okay guys, let me bring you all a little closer. Let's get you in here where you can see what's going on. Alright. One thing you're going to need right here, guys, is this prop is going to spin. Alright? That's what a prop does. So, you need a piece of wood, a little 2x4, to go right here so that you can take this off. And it's going to go the other way, actually. And we're loosening it. But you need a piece of wood so that your prop won't spin, and you can take your prop nut off. Okay, there's that. Prop nut off there. There's the prop nut. There's our prop. Splines look good. Still got a good bit of grease in it. Set that over here to the side. I don't see any fishing line. I don't see any damage around that seal. Everything looks pretty copacetic. Alright guys, so it looks pretty good there. We're not too worried about anything on that shaft. That shaft looks like it's spinning well. Gonna wipe all that old grease off. No fishing line. We're in good shape. Try to get all that old grease off those spines, or splines, excuse me. So we're gonna put new grease on it. Alright, so the grease I'm gonna use, guys, is Mercury 24C. Okay, that's what I like to use on my motors. We're just gonna, about every other spline, put us a good line on there. Like that. There. I'm going to put some on the shaft itself. We're just going to kind of rub it down, rub it in. Okay. Let's get her good and greased up. Some around the seal. Now, back on with the prop. Thrust washer back on. Slide that prop on. Back on with the prop nut. Okay. Let's get our board. Put our board in there. Tighten that prop nut down. Good and tight. Okay, there's that. Put our stop back on. Put our Carter pin back in. Bend this Carter pin out. All right, guys, there we have it. Back on there, ready to roll. For another day. All right. Done. Take our wood out of there. Prop is greased. No fishing line. We're good to go. Okay. Now let's move back over to, well, we still got some draining going on over there. Let's go up here and work on spark plugs next, guys. All right, guys, we're gonna move up here to the spark plugs. We're gonna let that lower unit finish dripping. So this motor calls for a Champion plug. It is a 938M QL78YC is what this motor calls for. Again, this is a 96 Johnson Fast Strike 150. Okay, that's what the motor calls for. That's what I run in it. Always run good with those plugs. We're going to take these out and inspect them as we take them out and replace them. So what you'll need for this job is a torque wrench. This is inch pounds. 216 inch pounds, guys, is what this motor calls for on the spark plug torque. Okay, 216 inch pounds. So we're going to take these out and inspect them and put new ones in as we go. Oh yeah, time for a change. So guys, if you run a two-stroke motor, you are going to foul plugs if you idle as much as I do. I idle a ton. And idling. Two strokes don't like to idle. Two strokes like to crank up, run wide open down the lake, okay? That's what they were made for. So if you idle a lot with a two-stroke, you ought to be changing your plugs pretty regularly. I change mine about twice a year, just so I know that they are in good shape. Alright guys, one other thing to keep in mind is a lot of these plugs come pre-gapped. These do not, okay? So 30 thousandths is what, this is a gapping tool, okay? This is a gapping tool. You can pick it up at any auto parts store. And what you do is it's got little measurements on the tool itself, on the face. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But it tells me where 30 thousandths is, and I put my spark plug in there, and I just work it up, work it up, work it up. So it's right on 30 thousandths. Okay. Pull that off. We're ready to rock with that spark plug. All right. So we're going to put that plug in that hole. We're going to check our torque wrench to make sure it's on 216. It is. We're going to tighten that baby down. Real easy. You don't want to over torque a plug. These are aluminum heads. You don't want to get in a situation where you strip something out. You just want to go real easy. Nice. There we go. Hear that torque wrench? We're torqued. We're good on that plug. Put the boot back on. Move on to the next one. Woo! Crusty. Crusty, crusty. Numero 2. Alright. Go ahead and gap this one. Wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. 30 thousandths. In the hole she goes. Nice and smooth on the wrench. You don't want to get carried away. There we are. Boot back. These down here are always the fun ones, down here in the bottom of the tray. Whoopsie! Drop that one, guys. Oh yeah, she's crusty too. Time for a change for sure. So this motor has 6 cylinders. It's a V6. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. Gap this plug out. 30 thousandths there. Roll it back in. You always want to make sure you get those plugs started straight, guys. That's the most important thing. Make sure you get them plugs started good. And your torque spec for your motor could be different than this one, so don't use those torque specs unless you're running this motor. Should break right here. There it is. All right, boot back on. All right, guys, that's it. There's your plugs. I'm gonna work on the other side real quick. I'll get the other side done, and then we'll get back down there on the foot, get the foot filled back up, okay? Be right back with you. All right, guys, so we're back down here at the foot, okay? We're going to refill that with high performance Quicksilver Gear Lube SAE 90. That's what we're gonna fill that back up with. We're gonna get the pump out real quick. Show you guys how to put that pump in the bottle. It's not very hard. Pull that pump out of the box. We don't need this piece because we don't have that type of foot. So we're gonna put this little straw on the bottom of this pump like so. Okay, little cap right here that comes off. That little thread right there threads into the bottom of our motor. Okay, so we're gonna open this up, poke us a good hole there. We're gonna put that pump in that bottle just like so, easy peasy. Okay, then we're going to screw those wings. If you turn it, see how it's turning? Okay, those wings allow you to turn that so that you can screw it into the bottom of the motor right here. All right, that's screwed in there. Now, what we're gonna do is just fill this thing up. There we go. Okay, as you're pumping fluid into the foot, you want to get that foot as level as you can. So I've moved the pan, trimmed the motor down to get it level. Okay, then you're just gonna fill her up. Now, I have not put any of the drain plugs back in. You're filling from the bottom to the top. When you fill these feet, the foot of this motor has to be filled from the bottom to the top. Here's your drain hole for the top. We're gonna fill until we get a good steady stream of fluid that comes out of that hole. And we're just gonna keep pumping. There's fluid. Try to catch some of that if we can. Make too big of a mess. Okay. And we're going to give it a couple extra pumps here, just to make sure that we get all the air out. Very important to get the air out of that fluid. All right, now we're gonna put that plug back in on the top first. Top plug goes in first. Okay. All right, top plug first, guys. Now, why do you put the top plug back in first? Because that top plug being in now is going to create somewhat of a vacuum. So when I take this out, it's not going to allow that fluid to rush out real quick. Okay, so now that we've got a mess, right? This is where it gets tricky, a little. So you want to get that, stand up right there. You want to get the hose, out of the bottom plug and get that plug in fairly quickly so that you lose very little fluid. You don't want to lose a lot of fluid out of that bottom hole. Alright guys, we're going to lose a little, but we're going to try not to lose a ton here. Okay. Alright, here it comes. There we go. Shop towel or two, wipe them hands off. That bigger screwdriver in there. Tighten that baby down. There we go. There we have it, guys. Wipe all that oil off. You don't want to take it to the lake. Put it in there with that oil on it. Try to get it all wiped off. Check those screws one more time. Make sure they're good and snug. Oh yeah, screws ain't going nowhere. Alrighty. There you have it, guys. Done and done. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope that helps. Hope you guys learned something today about how I maintain my motor. One last thing that I always do, always take your cowling off, inspect your motor, make sure you don't see any major leaks, make sure the hoses don't have any holes, make sure you're not leaking fuel, make sure all your air lines are connected, make sure your water pump line's connected for your water pressure. You know, make sure everything, just give it a once over, a visual look to make sure that you don't see anything out of the ordinary, okay? If you do, and it raises a concern for you, then that's when you go and you say, okay, what's wrong? You try to identify that problem. But give everything a good once over, make sure everything's copacetic, look on both sides of your motor. Everything looks good. All of my connections, my wires, everything looks like it should. Don't see any burned places. Don't see where anything's getting hot. Looks pretty good. So that's how I maintain my motor, guys. I appreciate you guys for coming along with me. We're going to get her back out on the lake and go catch some more crappie. So we'll see you guys later. As always, guys, God bless. And I appreciate y'all for watching. We'll talk to you later.